2020 definitely put things into perspective, and for so many of us, it provided the opportunity to pause and think about work-life balance and how we can, dare we say it, pivot to create new opportunities for ourselves. Right now, you may just be sitting inside an opportunity, your home. 4 million people have turned their extra space into extra income and flexibility by hosting on Airbnb, and you can too. That bonus coin could be used for big trips, cheeky little splurges, or you could even invest it, which predictably I would very much endorse. It's all made possible by hosting, with resources and support from Airbnb and its community of 4 million hosts to help get you started. Learn more and try hosting for yourself at airbnb.com/host.
She's on the
Money.
She's on the money. Hello and welcome to She's on the Money, the podcast for millennials who want financial freedom. My name's Tony Lodge, and joining me for another Money Diary episode is Miss Victoria Devine. Hello.
Good morning, Miss Tony Lodge.
So we've got a really good Money Diary today, but just before we get into it, I just want to give everybody a little trigger warning that listening to this one might actually bring up some things, because we will be talking about chronic illness and also financially abusive relationships. So if that's something that might not sit well with you this morning, we totally understand, and we'll be able to see you on Wednesday for our deep dive.
We just want to make sure that everybody in our community feels safe and really comfortable listening to our episodes. So I think that's really important, Tony. With that in mind, I haven't yet heard this story. So Tony, can you read out this week's Money Diarist's email for me?
Okay, here we go. I moved out / got kicked out at 14 and never went back. I'm now 27. I had to work multiple jobs at once just to pay rent and often stole food from work as I couldn't afford it. Forced to leave school to work, then returned as an adult. Got through on my own and off to university despite a severe learning disability, Erlands. I was also recovering from a few injuries from major incidences, including a car accident and being clipped by a freight train. What? Less than 1 year into uni and I land in hospital after a very minor surgery went wrong and had to learn how to walk again, and was bedridden for months. During that first year of uni and a while after, I was in a financially abusive relationship and landed in $20,000 in debt. I never thought I'd be out of debt, and now I'm so close. I've worked my butt off, landed in a secure industry, and I'm now close to having that debt paid off. I live with fibromyalgia, arthritis, nerve damage in my leg, and an autoimmune disease. So yes, my medical is not great, but most days I get up and still work. I rely on no one else to pay my bills or rent or debt off, and I'm so proud of how far I've come. Thank you to the team for getting me out of my financial dark.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
What a story.
Such a story. And we've got our Money Diarist on the line, as always. Oh, you can already hear her. Hello, Money Diarist.
Hi, girls. How are you?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey with us. That is a journey, isn't
Quite
it?
a story. For a 27-year-old person, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it just kept getting more interesting, and then a freight train, and then, everything else. I was like, what? This poor woman has gone through a lot.
It's been a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah, like it's been a freight train, my friend. All right, let's jump straight into the questions, because I have a number of other questions that I'd love to learn about. But let's start with the basics. What is your attitude towards money?
At the moment, I'm quite conservative. My attitude's changed over the years. When I was younger, it was, we lived day by day, basically, and you just did what you had to do. If you had to work, you had to work. And then I got into an attitude where it was like, FOMO, live my life, it should be great. And then I knuckled down, and now, I guess my mindset has changed. I've broken generational poverty, which I'm really proud of. So I'm into a new realm that I've never explored before financially. So it's a bit hard to say what my attitude is, because it's really unknown at the moment.
But that's so cool. Are you proud of yourself for having gone through all of that, and now you're in this epic position and changing your circumstances?
Look, It's hard to say. I say yes, but when people ask me, I actually backpedal and say, well, no, I just put myself down as being a bit stubborn and you do what you have to do. But I had to really think about it for a while. And, yeah, I am proud. I just don't like to, I guess, fluff my own pillow.
Oh my gosh, you need to. I will. I literally love it. I'm genuinely so proud of you and the story that we've just heard, and I haven't even heard all of it yet, and I don't even get to ask questions yet. So the next question is, what do you do for work and how much do you earn?
So I'm a public servant with the government. I was very lucky to land that just before I finished university. And at the moment, I'm earning $88,000 a year.
Whoa.
Oh, that is epic. That is so much money, especially having gone through what you've gone through and you're not proud of yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm going to beat it into you. Oh, all right. Next question. What is your big money goal?
So if you asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have said paying off all of my bad debt. However, I have just finished paying off my bad debt 8 years earlier than I expected.
Oh my gosh, yes!
And 23 years earlier than my minimal repayments. So
23 years earlier?
Yes. Yeah.
What?
So that was my money goal. So right now I'm in the process of moving and relocating for a new role. So I actually don't have a money goal at this point. Because I just achieved my last one.
Time to plan. And with all this free cash flow now, you've smashed down that debt. You can make the most of it and actually just take your time and be comfortable with it. Yes. Oh my gosh, how cool.
Yes. It's big.
Yeah, that's huge.
Oh my gosh. And she says she's not proud of herself, Tony. Oh, you're going to get in trouble with me very soon, my friend.
You, my friends, my partner.
All right, next question. Do you currently invest?
No. So my goal was to get rid of that debt first and foremost, which obviously I've just done. But after listening to your podcast, I changed my mindset in that I have super. So yeah, I guess in that realm that I do invest. But other than that, that's my next adventure, I guess.
That is very exciting to hear.
And you're in the right place.
Yeah, absolutely. You have found home. We are definitely here to talk about it. But also so many people, when we ask that question, they forget that they are already investors because they have superannuation. And it's crazy how many people don't prioritize that, given it is forced savings.
Yes.
It is 9.5% of your income. And in July, it's going up to 10%. And so many of us could not say that we save 10% on a regular basis or even invest 10% on a regular basis, when in reality, that is what we are doing within superannuation.
Yes.
So it is special and we do need to care about it. The next question, we actually already know the answer to, but I'm going to ask a little bit more pervy questions about it. It is, do you have any debts?
So yes, technically I do. So I still have my HEX debt that I'm paying off, but it's kind of taking care of itself. 2 years ago, my car completely died, but I was in a really good position where I was able to salary sacrifice, and that actually worked out way more financially better for me. And so I guess those two. But yeah, I smashed out the rest of the other debt, what I classed as bad debt, and just have those two things remaining.
That is so exciting.
That's
Can
awesome.
I ask about your bad debt and how much bad debt you found yourself in?
So it ended up capping at $33,876. It was a combination of, unfortunately, my ex-partner took out loans in my name and store credit cards and all sorts of bits and pieces. I was lucky enough to actually bring it down to that $33,000. It was more than that. So I consolidated it into a personal loan, so I wasn't copping 23% interest, and then just attacked it horrendously hard.
Yeah, that's awful that you ended up in a situation where someone did that to you.
Took advantage of you in that way.
Yeah, that's really awful. How did you find out about all of the store credits and loans in your name?
When we were ending the relationship and I had to relocate for a new job, I was trying to change addresses and get rental properties, and I got knocked back for a few rental properties for bad credit rating, and I couldn't work out why. So I kind of did some digging and some investigating, and it came up with those things.
Wow. So he didn't even ask your permission. It wasn't something that he said, hey, I need these, and you got tricked into it. He literally just forged your name on things.
Correct. Some of which I was recovering from an injury, and I was heavily medicated at the time. So I was, in technicality, he was my carer. And yeah, he did those things whilst I was incoherent. Whether or not I signed them because I was medicated or he forged my signature, I honestly don't know. But yeah, it was at a very dark period of my life, and he took full advantage of that.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm really sorry to hear that.
But that's exactly why we need to understand what's on our credit score and what our credit history actually looks like, because you didn't even know that they were there until you were forced to check because some other negative things happened. So I think that this is a really good reminder to just do a credit check and make sure that you know what's on your credit history. And I guess that opens a wider conversation about how do we get people to take responsibility for things like that and track it down. And, you know, I'm sure you've been through this and thought about the pros and cons, and more often than not, because the documentation would have, quote, had your signature on it, it's just too hard to fight, and you often just go, you know what, I'm just going to move on, I'm going to pay the debt. And it breaks my heart because that's put you back financially. But in your personal situation, I'm just so glad to hear you have a good income and you've got the ability to save, and now you're out of that debt, because it's just so unfair that those things happen. And, you know, there are a lot of places that can help, and I guess this is a good place to plug our friends at the National Debt Helpline, and we'll put them in the show notes just because they are angels and they help you through so much stuff. They absolutely know where to go when things like this are happening, because you feel lost and overwhelmed and like nobody understands. So for me, if you're in that situation, hit those guys up. And if you don't feel comfortable to do that, please slide into my DMs and I will help you find the right way. Let's ask the next question, because we have absolutely sidelined this again, which is my favorite thing to do. What is your best money habit?
My best money habit, I am religious that when my paycheck comes in each fortnight, that I pay my bills straight up, and I put, say, $50 or so into straight to the power bill, even though I don't have it. I always pay my bills and my rent straight up, and then allocate money to groceries or to pet bills or whatever it might be, and stick to that.
Great habit. Such a good habit.
Bad habit. I love that habit.
I love it. It makes life easier.
It definitely does.
100%. In contrast, what is your worst money habit?
So I was thinking about this, and I'm just going to preface it that it's not the same, but it's going to sound the same as some of the other money diarists, is food. However, when I say that, I am a stickler for, if I purchase something, I think, can I get 1 or 2 meals out of that? Is that the best cost? But it is bad in the sense that only just the other day I went for breakfast with my partner at a lovely cafe, and I couldn't finish the meal and I wanted to take it home for a second serve. And the lady said, no, we can't take it home because it's got eggs in it and we're not allowed to for hygiene. And I was like, okay. And then when we left, I burst into tears because I was like, oh my gosh, I've just wasted another serving. And my partner had to reassure me that I don't need to be in that mindset anymore, that I can afford another meal. But that's still something like a bad habit I have, that I'm like, okay, how much is this going to cost? Is that enough food to feed me? And yeah, it's something I'm trying to change.
Oh my gosh, that is not a worst habit at all.
No, I think that's not bad. From what you've been through in your life, that's just trauma. That's just from you living
literally
like meal to meal. You can't be hard on yourself for that. That's just, you went through something that, like, I mean, unfortunately, lots of people go through, but that most people wouldn't understand, especially now that you're in a different part of your life where, you know, you've got a great job and a secure job. And I could bet that not a lot of people that you're working with now have ever been through that or had to think in that way. So I just don't want you to be so hard on yourself, because
oh my gosh, that is not a worst money habit. In
fact, not a bad habit at all.
As much as it's probably come from a traumatic past, we could definitely all learn a little bit from that. I always overorder at cafes, and that is, you know, me showing my privilege, but it just isn't necessary. Like, we definitely could all take a leaf out of your book and only order what we need and have a really good think about the things that we are purchasing, because that could lead to really good money habits for all of us. All right. Next and last question before we get to have a really deep conversation. What grade would you give yourself if I forced you to give yourself a money grade?
Oh, a couple of weeks ago, I think I would say a B+. Right now, I couldn't give myself a grade because, like I said, I'm starting a new chapter, so I'm not sure what my money habits are going to be from here on out. So,
my gosh, that annoys me, because you and my eyes, you're a straight A. I mean, you're not investing yet properly, you're doing super, so maybe not A+, but like, you've gotten out of debt, you've gone through so much, and you're still in this position where you have this epic income that you have worked your butt off to deserve. Oh, nah, you're an A. Like, what do you mean you don't get one? Oh, who is she?
I just figured for, my new chapter of my money life, I guess, I just don't know what it will be. So, yeah.
Look, it's
but
true.
You're starting with an amazing clean slate.
Yes.
Exactly. How exciting, getting out of debt and then getting a brand new job all in the one period of time. I'm so excited, and I'm going to ask you so many questions about it right after this quick break.
Attention, side hustlers. We wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you about what could be the ultimate side hustle: hosting on Airbnb.
We know, especially in today's climate, that so many of us are looking for ways to make an extra buck. And what a better way than by finding opportunity where you're sitting right now in your home. More than 4 million people have turned their extra space into extra income and flexibility by hosting on Airbnb.
Two of these hosts are named Daryl and Patrice. Daryl and Patrice were big travellers pre-COVID, and they'd often host their home when they were away to make a bit of extra money on the side.
They found that guests loved the vibe and location of their home and realised there might be a bigger opportunity, a tiny home right on their property.
They drew up a design, found a local builder, and quickly saw how a small investment in a micro space could lead to extra income on Airbnb in an ongoing way.
Now, the duo are truly Airbnb aficionados, and since building that tiny house, they've built a tiny barn, a tree house, and they're currently working on a camper van in the trees, which I feel like we need photos of. Daryl and Patrice, if you are listening, please send those photos through to us ASAP.
That's Daryl and Patrice's story, just one example of what's made possible by hosting. No matter what kind of space you have, a barn, a loft, a home that's sometimes empty, you can let it work for you on Airbnb.
Learn more and try hosting for yourself at airbnb.com/host. I have so many questions for you. I feel like your story is so impressive. And before this recording, Tony was like, oh my gosh, Victoria, you're going to love hearing this one. There is so much to it. How did this eventuate? You got kicked out at 14. You are facing some serious adversity when it comes to, you mentioned before you have a number of syndromes, and I think you said Erlen's. Is that the one where you have light sensitivity?
So it's a visual processing disorder. So basically my eyes don't speak to my brain at the right speed. So for me personally, I have light sensitivity, I'm dyslexic, I have depth perception issues, it causes migraines, very painful eyes. I don't pick up things quick. So for example, you might read a book and smash it out in a day. It takes me 2 weeks to read it because I've got to read the line over and over and over again. Every person's different. You most likely see people that have blue lenses or pink lenses like Elton John. But for me, mine are really dark because my light sensitivity is quite intense. But yeah, it caused learning difficulties because for me, the pages were blank. There was no writing on them. There was no lines on them. I couldn't see it. And unfortunately, I didn't get my diagnosis until I was an adult. So
I was going to ask, how old were you when you found out you had this? Because that would be seriously debilitating growing up, right?
So I was grade 10 when they thought I was dyslexic. And got a little bit of assistance then, but it wasn't until I was actually 22 and got my formal diagnosis and got my first set of Erlen's lenses, and oh my gosh, I remember saying to the lady, oh, that's what the world looks like. Okay. And yeah, it changed my life.
That's so special.
Yeah, I can't even explain the feeling to be able to see things at a certain depth or a certain color, or read a page and not get a headache, or sit down and read a book and actually enjoy it. It literally changed my life.
That is so cool and so upsetting that you didn't get that diagnosis earlier. How did you come about finding that? Like, if people are listening to this and, they've been really struggling, was there a certain test, or was there something that, triggered it, or was it just you going, there has to be something else going on here?
Kind of just saying there has to be something else. And I did have dyslexia glasses, so they had a light colour tint. And I went back to the optometrist and they said, no, we don't do that testing anymore. Have you considered going to an Erlen specialist? And I was like, what on earth is that? And he told me, and he showed me some examples of videos of where writing spins on the page, or it fuzzes, or it disappears off the page. And he sent me through to this Erlen specialist, who then did testing, and you have to do like a reading test and a writing test, and it can also be auditory, so all those sorts of things. And then she started putting coloured overlays on the page and layering things up, and found out that way. It took about, I think the session was about 4 hours in total.
Wow.
Yeah, and they provide you with like water and breaks and all sorts of bits and pieces, because they know it can fatigue you quite horrendously. And then you've got to send the glasses away to get made and that kind of thing. So there are Erlen specialists around, but it is normally diagnosed when you're a child and through school, that kind of thing. But when I was growing up, it basically didn't exist. So there was no way to test for it because, it just didn't exist.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm glad that you've been diagnosed now.
And at that point when you were diagnosed, were you at uni at this point?
Yeah. So I was partway through and almost into my second degree by that point.
That must have totally changed your experience after having gone through all that time while you were at uni and you were physically unable to really do what other people could do and at the same speeds and stuff. I mean, high school and school is one thing, but uni is so intense.
That's crazy.
Did you feel a total difference between the way that you learn and the way that you felt about being at uni from the first half of your studies to after being diagnosed?
Yeah, so I was studying full-time, I was working full-time, and I was running an organisation that looked after the student welfare, which had full-time hours but volunteer-based. And I ran on very little sleep and just coffee all the time. And afterwards, I actually cut down my coffee intake and I was able to sleep more. And I knew that I could be cheeky and write an essay the night before instead of thinking I've got to start the day it's issued and take the full 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks to do it. It meant that I was able to do my trimesters and get my degree done a little bit quicker than I wanted to. And then I actually went on and did a second degree, and I've gone on to do further studies since then, which I never thought I'd do because it at the time would physically hurt and be too tiring for me. So it really changed everything I could do.
I'm beyond in awe. Like, you are so smart, like, to have gone through all of that and still be able to do it. Like, people struggle with uni and they don't have any learning difficulties or learning disabilities. And something that I'm really grateful for, because I did study psychology, is the knowledge that a learning difficulty or a disability doesn't actually mean a lack of intelligence. And so often people immediately think, learning difficulty, they must just not be as smart. And that is not the case. And you are absolutely proving that, having gone through such adversity. It must have been so challenging, especially to the level that you experience it, to still have degrees, to still have gone and done further education. And let's just point out that you earn $88,000 a year. Like, that is impressive, like, seriously impressive.
That's
especially
a lot of money.
It's a lot.
Oh my gosh.
Even you're saying it's a lot. You're like, it's too much.
But
Take it away.
I remember
you deserve
thinking
every single
55.
cent of that.
was like, I remember thinking 55,000 was a lot, and I was happy to have that. And then when I landed this job and they told me the wage and that it goes up every X amount of years, I was like, excuse me, you want to pay me what?
Sorry.
And it's permanent full time. I sign on the dotted line. Yes, thank you.
I'm so proud of it. I love that for you, and you absolutely deserve it. Can you tell us a little bit more about your finance history? Like, we've obviously had a really good chat about disability, but let's have a chat about, going through financial abuse and what that felt like, and coming out the other side. Like, you come across as a really happy, really fun person that I want to be friends with, but I'm sure that's not how you've always felt. So can you explain, I guess, finding out about that, what you did about that, and how that really impacted you?
It sucked. I can't put it any other way. It sucked. I had gone through some hell throughout my life previously, and I was like, got over that and I can deal with that. And then this was kind of the final blow, when I thought I was starting to get my life together with my career and my uni, and finding out who I was as a person after some injuries and whatnot. And it was the final blow. I did get into a very, very dark place mentally. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm very open about that. And I sought out some psychology interventions. And I put all the finance on the back burner. I called all the companies. I was like, I need you to suspend payments, and look, I'll pay it. Like you said earlier, sometimes it was easier just to cop it on the chin, and technically my name was on it, so technically it was mine. But after a little while, I did reach out to the debt hotline and had a really long chat with them and a few phone calls with them.
Oh my gosh,
and
you did?
Yeah, they were fantastic. They gave me so much guidance and how I could consolidate it, and certain ones that I could stop, and certain ones like if I wanted to go to court over it, or what the ramifications would be. And I just had to really sit down and think and be like, okay, the plan is to pay X amount every fortnight, and that will leave me with this much for groceries and bills. All right, we can do this. But yeah, for a while there, I just accepted that I would forever be in debt. That was going to just be a bill for me, and that was, as common as paying rent. But yeah, it knocked me. It really did knock me. And as I started to chip it down and see the end, every time I get a little bit closer to paying the end, something unexpected would come up, like my dog landed in major surgery, so I got sent back again, and it got a bit frustrating. And I remember thinking I was so angry at this person for doing this to me. But in a way, I was actually kind of grateful. It made me to be quite tenacious and quite money set, that I needed to actually focus on money. It wasn't just coming and going. I had to put my head down and work out a budget that worked for me. So I could run him over, don't get me wrong, but I'm kind of grateful for the skills
I could
that
too,
he
my
gave
friend.
me.
I could too. I'll be in the passenger seat. Don't you worry.
Toot toot.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I think that that's something that a lot of people say, well, why didn't you take him to court? Why didn't you follow it up? And I think that so many people who have actually been through this, they've got enough emotional stress hanging over them. They are going through so much trauma at that point in time that they just go, you know what, I can't put myself through that. So you absolutely can't judge where somebody is at or the decisions they make until you've experienced something similar. And I think that that's a really important lesson and a really important story to come out of this, that one, there is support, like our friends at the National Debt Hotline, which I love them. And I think it's so funny because, you go to their website and their website's not that attractive, if we're honest. Like, it looks a bit dry and you're like, oh, I just want someone who's empathetic and kind. But they are the kindest people, and you get connected with a free financial counselor who will explain to you all your options and really hold your hand through that process. I promise you it's not nearly as dry as their website looks, because they are genuinely so caring and so helpful. So I'm glad that you had them as a resource.
And free of judgment as well.
Free of judgment and free of charge. Their services are free as well. Like, you don't have to pay them, which is so cool and so kind. And yeah, I adore them. I'm obsessed with them.
They were fantastic.
Yeah, I send a lot of people that reach out to me who are in a bit of a pickle to them. I'm like, look, these guys, I know it's a hotline and it doesn't sound as good, but you'll be connected with a free financial counselor, usually in your area, and it's just genuinely so special. So having gone through what you've gone through, now you're in a much better position. You've got a partner now. Are you living with your partner? What's the situation there?
No, so it's coming up 1 year with him, which is exciting.
Cute.
We have been doing technically a long distance relationship, and I'm actually about to move in the coming days to be about 10 minutes around the corner from him.
Oh, that's where you're moving.
Kind of, yeah. So we had the chat that should we move in together, and financially it'd be great. And we sat down very early on in our relationship actually and discussed finances, and I was very open about it because I'd recently listened to your episode about STDs. I was like, hey, this is my situation. But I said, look, I'd like to kind of just be in the area and find my feet first, and then maybe in 6 to 12 months we can explore moving in together. But
I'm so proud of you for having that honest chat, because it is so easy to get caught up in the excitement of moving in with a new boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever and being like, you know what, it doesn't matter. We'll just move in together. It'll be great. And we can wake up every morning and have a coffee together, when it's actually so much harder to go, hang on. Let's be smart about this. Let's protect ourselves, have the conversation. So especially, I guess, after what you'd been through, you're like, I'm not going to put myself in a vulnerable position again. And we could talk to you for hours and hours, but I guess I just want to know, is there anything else that you'd like to share for anybody that's listening that might find themselves in a situation that's similar to what you've been through?
I think just be confident in yourself. And give yourself time. If I've said to people in the past, like, it was hell, and I laugh it off now, and everyone goes, oh, you should be proud of yourself, and it's hard. Be ready for a hard road, but be assured in yourself that you can get through it. There are people out there. There is the services out there. Just give yourself time. Be gentle with yourself. And, if it takes you 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, you will get through that. It just, be kind to yourself.
I love that. That is such a perfect place to leave this. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you. It's been amazing to chat.
That's an epic journey, and we are so proud of you, but unfortunately that is all we have time for today. So just before we head off, we'd like to acknowledge and pay respects to Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. They're the traditional custodians of the lands, the waterways and the skies all across Australia. We thank you for sharing and for caring for the land on which we are able to learn. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and we share our friendship and our kindness.
The advice shared on She's on the Money is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. She's on the Money exists purely for educational purposes and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision. We promise Victoria Devine is an authorised representative of Australia Pacific Funds Management, Proprietary Limited, ABN 341324632557, AFSL 339151. And if anything in today's episode brought anything up and you need to talk to someone, you can always contact our friends at 1-800-RESPECT, and I'll pop their website in the show notes below.
And if you want to speak to a financial counsellor, you can contact our friends at the National Debt Helpline on 1-800-007-007. Don't forget, that is literally a free hotline that is open Monday to Friday. So if you need them, please reach out, because they are some of the most genuinely kind people I have ever come across. And with that, we will see you next week, guys, for another Money Diary with our friend Tony Lodge.
Bye!